Hi all, back with some more Q&As from the weekend, from the Beginner's Touch training. More questions for Michelle's going to cover with us now. So we're now going in to start off with a question on how does missed milestones lead to special needs. We sort of covered that. If you've not seen the 3 fail-proof signs of CP, some of that's covered in here in a little bit more detail too. But in terms of missed milestones, how do you identify that as being special needs?
So that's a loaded question. Okay, a lot of people feel that the milestones were fine and then all of a sudden we're missing one. One of the big missed milestones that it's actually happening is rolling over. All right, the child's not able to roll over. Rolling over should happen from the right to the left to the right, be equal and not get stuck, not fall out of it. So a lot of people don't understand the quality of rolling over. And so a rolling over is not, I fell off of a pillow once. And that's the biggest misconception too that doctors have, is that the doctor will say, oh, is your child rolling over? And your child fell off of a pillow once and you're like, oh yeah, they do, they roll over, or they've rolled over once and it's, it was 2 weeks ago or something like that. And that's not rolling over, but the doctor's hearing, check, we're good. And so that's a big foundational milestone that is missed. When you miss a littler milestone, the chances of you having greater special needs or the greater need for intervention really goes up. So that's why we're all about catching milestones being missed early on, like the tummy time. Again, I hear my baby hates tummy time. There was a big discussion that I kind of got barked at. I wasn't going on as Michelle Turner's, but it was on a different site. And I'm like, no, you can't be trying to be concerned about tummy time at 8 months. Like the I don't want to say it like this, but the boat sailed. And you really need to get on it immediately. Not, again, well, the CDC's not worried about it. Yeah, they are, but they're just not telling you. And so the earlier the milestones that you're not presenting with, and it's not in many books, guys. It's about swaddling your baby and making sure they're eating, pooing, sleeping. You got a good car seat, but right?
I think that as a parent as well, you love your child. Obviously, everyone loves the child, and you don't want to hear anything bad about your child. You're perhaps not open to admitting that there's something wrong with,
okay,
with
there's
your
a
child
different.
sometimes.
When you say you're not ready to hear, who's telling you?
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, you're 9 months in the hospital. Nobody was talking to you about your daughter's development whatsoever. They're just keeping her alive, which was a good thing. But nobody's talking.
You've got to have that health and medical as a priority, but the impact that's going to have on movement consequently, and rolling over for me is massive because within movement lesson we're talking a lot about the importance of weight transferring, and as a child as they weight transfer and the role that plays in neural mapping with the brain. You've then got rotation, and rotation's key to being able to move through gravity and not being pulled down to the floor and avoiding that fall. And so, rolling over really epitomizes that. If you want to know, can we weight transfer and have we got rotation in the system, rolling over is your key there.
Right. And then the next big one is grabbing your feet. Grabbing your feet is probably the biggest overlooked milestone. It's not about grabbing one foot, it's grabbing your feet and you get that pump going.
That push-pull signs of development.
So you can miss grabbing your feet and prop your baby into sitting. You have independent sitting that happens around 5.5 months. And so you have that. But what you're seeing is this baby going like this, like bring it to me. You're not seeing like I'm talking to Scott or going back and forth. This is actually independent sitting because that's like grabbing my feet, but sitting up. When you have those two combinations, now you can come to sitting from your back. Probably due to environmentals, swings and so forth that's going on. That's where I'm seeing now the biggest gap starting to happen. Your baby is sitting up and you're like, way, they can sit and play. They're not coming to sitting from their back. And that happens at about 6.5 to 7 months, that a baby should be able to sit up from their back. So what happens is they're rolling over and they're pushing up into sitting. That's not coming into sitting. Right? That's getting into sitting, but that's not coming into sitting. And it's a different milestone. And so again, it's the quality of the milestones. So now the pushing to sitting is the parent that's going to say, my kid's army crawling, my kid's bear crawling, I've got this asymmetrical crawling. and I can tell you right now, is because they can't come to sitting through their back. So this is how the milestone deviations. Now, is that kind of child going to be globally delayed? No, because you're going after the locomotion. They will get it. And that's where people go into this, oh, babies are different, wait and see. And you start to see...
My child didn't do that. My child didn't crawl. He just went straight to running or walking. And you're like, that missed milestone, that's an indication that something's not right, because if you're going to miss a stage, then that problem's still going to be in the system. And so you're then going to have some sort of issues later on in life as well, or down the road, there's going to be something else from missing set milestone.
Right, and since we're here in Scotland, the analogy that I can give you is people think that a missed milestone like that means you're going to play for Australia versus Ireland. No. When you have asymmetrical crawling, when you have all these things, your child, I'm not saying your child's not going to walk. That's not the premise here. But if you want optimal development, but if you want your child going hardcore professional at school, professional at sports. Movement isn't just about sports. It's about reading and writing, and all those things are movement. You don't want asymmetrical crawling. You want 4-point crawl. And so I think that's the biggest misconception is my child's fine. My response is, unless they're going to Harvard or they're going to the Olympics, what's the definition of fine? Fine for you? I don't want your child to say, I can't do that. Or, Dad, I'm just clumsy. I don't want to do karate because I can't, you know what I mean? The other guys are better, or girls are better than me. That's not the point, right? When you move well, you're experimental with your movements. You go play, you go do things. They push you around. They have that experimental, you want a child to crawl on top of you. It's a really important thing. So what I'm trying to say is your baby is fine. Again, what's the definition of fine? I want your child to decide, I don't think Harvard's working for me. I'd rather go to MIT or to ASU. That's what my son did. That's brilliant. You know what I mean? There's options out there available.
I love how Michelle's got to the UK and got into the Rugby World Cup already. With everything's great with your child. They're going to be able to play for Ireland, or they've got issues with your child, they might have to play for Australia. So there's a great dig at Australian rugby, and all our Australian fans out there, hi. And Ireland potentially en route to winning the Rugby World Cup. So
yeah. Not. I should have said to the U.S. instead of Australia. I could have picked on me. We didn't get into it, but no, seriously, guys. Like even when I watched Scotland versus Ireland, and he was so brilliant to say, listen, Scotland's the best it's ever been, but they're going against probably one of the greatest teams ever. Like Ireland is just the best they've ever been. Scotland played amazing. They lost hard, but they still were at it with the competition that was bar none. And that's what you're looking for. We don't always come in first place, but we're still at a place that we could possibly become first. And that's what we're going after with your son or your daughter, right?
Yeah, definitely. And, those milestones at an early age give you that indication, and some people might look at it and say, oh, well, I'm not bothered about whether my child is going to be a professional athlete, or we want them to be smart, we want them to be great at maths, we want them to be great at their English, we want to be a writer, whatever it might be. If you're missing milestones in terms of movement, then that's going to have issues on neurogenesis of the brain. And the research is out there about movement and the role that exercise, physical activity plays on brain growth. So you want to give your child the best opportunity for cognitive development. You've got to look at those movements, and deviations from milestones is going to be a big indicator of down the line whether they're going to be great academically, whether they're going to be great creatively, whether they're going to be great in sporting terms.
Yeah, so one of the analogies I gave it to class, and by the way, hi Enrique, is when Dr. Oz wrote a book about the human body with a partner of his, and I can't remember the name, but it said, do we have to floss our teeth? And the answer was no. And then the sub-answer was, just floss the ones you don't want to lose. Don't miss a milestone. That's what we're here for. We're here for the guidance. If you feel frustrated, that's why we're here. If you want a better milestone, go for it. Enrique's a volleyball coach. You've done football and rugby and all of that. My son did drum corps, and he marched for academy. Versus it really makes a big difference in your life at what level you can go at and be at.
Yeah, you want to play the drums or play any musical instrument, and you've not got coordination, and you've not got that organisation within the system that you've got that comes from hitting every single milestone, or if you miss milestones, having somebody working on that to improve it, you've got no chance of being a top musician or being able to play a instrument full stop.
He did tuba. So you sit there with the baritone, you don't have to move. Then with the sousaphone, I had to do lessons with him because this is a giant bell, the big white tuba that they're going around, and he has to be able to march, do the program, and do all that. And then he had to go to the contra, that's strum and bugle corps. So he's got a 45-pound bugle that he has to be able to play and then snap into place and bring it back. I showed you the stuff, the scoliosis that he had after that. And thank goodness I was his mother. I saved his back for years of being uncomfortable because he was just, going hardcore doing this. Yeah, it's all movement. It's all necessary. Just because, you don't have this 220-pound rugby player in front of you, well, they're probably more than that, it's all movement. Volleyball players are more slender. They have a different muscular structure. You don't want them to get over muscular because of their fine motor skills and the breathing techniques. They all come into play at different levels, but you can only get to those levels when you have it all. And that's what we're after.
And I think another thing that's just to touch on, it's important there. I mean, Gordon at that age is what, 18, 20, 21?
When he did drum corps, 20.
Yeah. So you think like, movement lesson ain't just, we're not just talking about a child going through missed milestones. That's beneficial to a 20-year-old. It's beneficial for a 30, 40, 50, 60, 70-year-old. Working with people who are recovering from stroke. It's about giving people the opportunity to improve their movement, and milestones we might just talk about as a child as almost like a movement test. Are they able to do certain things? But the principles of movement lesson are so important to everyone, regardless of age and phases of their development in life. And if you're looking at someone who's coming back following a stroke and looking at how can we rehabilitate them and give them their movement skills back, is going to be huge, the same way as it is for a child. You're looking at someone who's been injured as a 20-year-old or 30-year-old. You've got back problems, movement lessons there to help and support that. And again, you're going to have movement issues as a result of that we'll be able to see, that people who've done the training are going to be able to see and be able to provide support and guidance to help you through that.
Thanks, guys. And Bernadette, I hope you got home okay. It was good playing with Owen, and I'll see you in a bit. Bye. Enrique.